on
Yeah,
today's
it's
podcast.
really important to set the table up front. That's one of the most important things a mortgage professional can do, to set those expectations, because it's a very different market than it used to be. And the pendulum has swung back to where things are a little more conservative with underwriting. And so there's a lot of documentation requirements. So I try and set the table up front to let my clients understand that we're basically going to need everything except vaccination records and firstborn. So.
The truth is, adding value will never go out of style. Hello, and actually good morning from Raleigh, North Carolina, here with Tammi Rowe, mortgage professional, and excited about this podcast. We're drinking our coffee, we're getting things started right, and other than that, Tammy's got a busy lifestyle, super busy professional, super mom, doing some traveling, so thanks for getting up early. She's already been at the gym today, she's already in crush mode, so we're excited to learn about some things about Tammi specifically, and she's going to help us understand the 5 things that we need to know about refinancing right now. But Tammi, thank you for joining us. And
Thanks for having me this morning. Great to see you as always.
Tell us a little bit about who you are and what your background is.
Sure, be happy to. So, originally from New York and moved here in 1992 when I was with a training program with GE Capital. And it was a 2.5-year program. And every 6 months I would rotate to a different position. Ended up here for my final position working with GE Capital Mortgage Insurance, and that's where I learned to speak mortgage.
Okay.
So I was selling private mortgage insurance at the time, and then left the industry altogether, went to Cisco Systems for several years, and then came back in the industry when my twins were born. And
Twins?
Yeah, about 15 years ago.
But that was a handful.
Yes, and have been originating ever since. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I've got 3 teenagers now, all in high school. I've got a 17-year-old rising senior.
So everybody needs to say some prayers for Tammi right now.
Yes, indeed.
We'll circle back around on that, but I can relate.
Yeah, and then I've got twins, boy-girl twins that are 15 and they're rising sophomores. So a full plate for sure. Lots of fun.
Wow, that's a handful. I mean, when I first started, I watched security, started going through divorce and that sort of thing, but essentially had the 3 teenagers at the time, and I'll tell you, just an absolute handful. And fortunately, I actually had the oldest and my youngest were pretty good. My middle one was just a terror. He's just the wild man. So I'm glad to be through that, and I'll certainly say some prayers for you. So you're from New York. When did you move here to Raleigh?
Back in 92.
Okay. That's right. So I actually got here in 93, so it's very similar.
Similar time. And a lot of change here since then.
Oh my gosh,
sure.
Absolutely. But so from the north originally, you're okay with the weather here, obviously.
Well, the humidity you can keep, but what are you going to do?
That's true. That's true. So that's how you got in the mortgage industry. Just real quick for the audience, what are some challenges you think you've encountered in the industry, lessons you've learned, whether it was maybe dealing with people, dealing with customers? I don't want to overload you at 8:30 in the morning, but just something that our audience can learn from, because you've been doing this for a long time now, so there's no question you've probably forgotten more than the average mortgage person knows. So that being said, if you had to take 1 or 2 things that really jump out at you if you're looking back, what do you think some things would be?
So I guess some of the challenges would be just a lot to balance. This is a very rewarding career and very demanding as well. And so you've got your end clients that you're assisting with their financing when they're purchasing or refinancing. And then you've got your referral partners that you need to take really good care of as well. And so also getting out and marketing and doing sales, but also working really hard to make sure every detail is covered so that each transaction goes smoothly and closes on time without any hiccups.
Right.
So just many irons in the fire and a lot to balance, which keeps it fun and interesting. Managing
lots of relationships. So you got the referral partners where you're getting a lot of business from. You got your end user, the client, and then you got your processors. You got your people within the company that are critical to helping you deliver on that. So one of the things I think I learned early on is I was probably a little bit too much of a sergeant when it came to running a security company or being a manager. It was a little bit more of an authoritarian style, whereas that may not play out well. And I found it actually doesn't play out well, especially with some people. So I'm sure that's a tough balance when you're dealing with the processors who, your name's on the line and your credibility's on the line and that closing date and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of pressure. The realtors, blowing your phone up probably, so it's a lot of pressure.
It's all about your reputation, and it's all about having a long-term mindset. It's not the transaction, it's the relationship. And so that's the mindset I go into it every day with, to take care of my client like they're my only client I'm dealing with, and then to treat my referral partner like they're the only referral partner I have.
Right.
And, even if the one transaction isn't a good fit for me, that's okay, because it's the long-term relationship that I'm after.
Right. And I've been on this kick lately of setting expectations, because I think that's a big part of it. Like even when we'll have a client that's setting up an installation for iWatch Security or whatever, and yeah, we're closing on the 5th. We'd love to get installed that afternoon. I even tell the client, well, listen, we'll go ahead and set it up. However, it's extremely common for, things to get backed up a day or two, because you got the lawyers involved, you got multiple people involved, realtors, mortgage people. And more often than not, it goes pretty smooth, but about 25% of the time, those people need to reschedule. So that's just something, obviously, as the mortgage person, everybody's looking at you.
Yeah, it's really important to set the table up front. That's one of the most important things a mortgage professional can do, to set those expectations, because it's a very different market than it used to be. And the pendulum has swung back to where things are a little more conservative with underwriting. And so there's a lot of documentation requirements.
Sure.
So I try and set the table up front to let my clients understand that we're basically going to need everything except vaccination records and firstborn. So,
Right.
And that when we need it quickly to ensure that they get to the closing table on time and there are no hiccups. So, just having that understanding up front, I think, prevents a lot of struggles that could happen on the back end.
Right. You mean people can't just throw a bunch of documents to you at the last minute and expect you to turn everything around immediately, right?
They can expect it, but it's unlikely.
The one thing I want to bring up as well, because this was really tough for me when I was being a single parent, and we won't spend a tremendous amount of time on that, but for any professionals out there that are really having a tough time, I would say it's totally normal. Like, it's supposed to be tough. Especially with teenagers, they're so demanding. How have you dealt with that? What are some tips you might be able to give people out there that are maybe getting separated or divorced and finding themselves being a single parent for the first time, or they're out there starting a new career, or they're just in a similar career, but the kids are starting to be a real pain in the ass. Now for me,
Mine would never be.
I mean, for me, I could just tell you, like, security at the house that I was at in Wakefield at the time, the security system was as much for keeping my middle son in the house at night as it was for keeping the bad guys out of the house at night. So,
Yeah.
That being said, I was leveraging technology to kind of help me out.
We need to talk about that. I was picking my son up at 2:30 in the morning last night, or the night before.
Oh my gosh! All right, so sorry, I didn't mean to. We're literally advertising right now, like keeping the teenagers in the house. That's a
big
ad
one.
we're literally running
I'm living
right
through
now.
it.
But I'm sorry to hear that. Again, say some prayers for Tammy with the teenagers. And it's there was definitely a period of time there where I was like, man, kids are so overrated. And I really meant it. It's just, but give it time. I love them all, and it's definitely circled back around to, maybe Dad's not such an idiot. Maybe he actually is looking out for my best interest, and it's not. I find boys especially, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on this, but the egos, and I think that the way I communicated would really rub my boys' egos wrong sometimes. And I had to really learn how to deliver my messages differently. So it wasn't so, this is the way you do it, so sergeant, type. And then they would do it anyway. And I would say, if you're going to do that, ABC is going to happen. And then they would think not, and then they do it, and then ABC happens. And now they're mad at me.
Right. Yeah, I find that too. I mean, instead of being militant, it's kind of collaboration.
Right.
And just discussing, if this is what you want to do, well, let's talk about it. And what are the
Right.
possible consequences of the actions that you're taking?
Perfect.
And to go into every situation and think, if this, then that.
Right.
Like always, what are the consequences before you take any action? So we talk a lot about that lately.
Highly recommended. And maybe that's, mom communicating a little bit differently than dad. I'm a little bit more efficient in communication. Like, I'm just trying to save you time. I'm looking out for you. Just trust me, I've literally, and again, I don't judge anybody that's ever done this, but I've never lied to my kids. Like, I never told them about the Easter Bunny. I never told them about Santa. I'm not judging anybody that does that. It's just, I wanted to be able to be 44 years old and say that I've never lied to you. I might be wrong about something, but I've never lied to you, and you should know that I always have your best interest at heart. So, anyway, I'm doing all the talking here.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I, with my kids, with teenagers, kind of the age of entitlement and working through some of those issues. And,
Right.
So with my kids, I tell them it's okay to have a difference of opinion. That's just normal and healthy, and voice it. Talk to me about it. We need to work through it. So you can share with me any kind of difference you have, as long as it's in a respectful manner.
Right.
And then we've got a conversation.
That's awesome.
So
You should maybe write a book about this, because you're spitting out some good knowledge for parents here. One of the things that I heard this recently, and I wish I could quote who I heard it from. It might have been Anthony Robbins, but it was, you can question my methods. Don't question my motivations, because that's insulting. So as a parent, I don't want you to lose. Everything I'm telling you is to benefit you. So anyway, I don't think we got a lot of, teenagers watching this podcast necessarily, but hey, mom and dad.
Hopefully ours won't be, because then
Right.
we're going to be in some big trouble.
That'll be all right. I would tell them the way it is. But any other mom lessons or single parent lessons you think, as far as balancing because you're very successful, you're professional, you network a lot, which can be time consuming, but you still try to be super mom as well. How do you do it?
Well, as far as the lesson goes, I think one really important lesson that I'm trying to instill with my children is that all events in life, to look at them as neutral, and then they get to decide the spin they're going to put on it. Is it something positive,
Right.
or is it something negative?
Right.
And are they going to be a victim of their circumstances, or are they going to hold themselves accountable? It's
Right.
kind of like an event happens. Now what do you do with it? What action do you take?
Right.
And so that's a really
That's awesome.
important lesson that I'm working hard to instill in all of them.
Personal responsibility.
Definitely personal responsibility, because I feel like if they can learn that at this young age, what a
awesome.
difference it'll make in their lifetime.
Totally.
Yeah, and as far as juggling, I think it's just really important to take time to yourself. And so I tried to turn over a new leaf about 3 weeks ago, because it was just really tough to balance everything. And so I've started getting up, like you said, super early in the morning. I try and get up a few times a week during the week at like 5 a.m. To hit the gym for a 5:45 class. And that way I've got my me time out of the way, and it hasn't impacted time with my career or time with my kids.
Sure.
And so that's helped a lot. And
That's
just
awesome.
really focusing on, here's the time that I'm committed to myself, to my career, and my kids, and not necessarily in that order.
Right.
But to make sure that you separate that and you devote the time one-on-one to each child, so they feel heard and special and cared for.
That's awesome. Super awesome. That's good stuff, Tammy. So let's jump into, you've got this awesome looking playbook, which the first time I saw this was 8 o'clock this morning. So tell us about your cool playbook here, and I'm going to hold
Sure.
it up, or you can hold it up there.
All right, so I just started publishing this last month, and it's a monthly playbook that I give out to my real estate partners. And they asked me, do I want a picture or a caricature? And I was like, well, let's do the caricature.
That's
That
cool,
sounds
yeah.
like fun. My daughter looked at it and she was like, what? I'm like, everybody else likes it.
Right.
So it's got lots of really neat marketing tips and tools. It's got scripts and just pop by ideas, and It's just filled with information that's, good for whatever season it is, time of the year, and it's just to help agents market their business and grow their business.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
You can have the best product or service in the world. You can be the best realtor in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you're out of business. Before you can sell something, before you can offer your services, you have to get somebody's attention. So that's awesome. That's a great resource, and super creative on your part as well.
Anything I can do to help create value for them and help them in growing their business to build the relationships.
Creating value for people. Success tip, Tammi Rowe. So with that, we'll jump right into, obviously we're basically, are we in the middle or are we entering into the refi boom? A great
We
refi
are
boom.
smack dab in the middle of it.
Okay.
It's an insane time right now because interest rates are really favorable. And so, there's so many different reasons it would be helpful to just do an annual mortgage review. And, no obligation.
Doesn't cost anything.
No charge, no obligation. But it's always a good idea just to do a review and kind of see where you are and what's changed since you did your last mortgage to see if there's an opportunity to benefit.
Right.
And there's primarily 5 different reasons you might want to consider, evaluating a refinance to see if it makes sense. So
Sure.
The most common one that people come to me about is just to lower their payment. Let's say they're currently in a 30-year fixed and they want to get a lower interest rate and get a lower monthly payment to help their cash flow. So, that's pretty typical in the industry.
Right.
And it's helping people save, hundreds of dollars a month and reduce the interest over the life of the loan, which is pretty significant.
And the thing that I want to kind of pile on there, it's not just, let's say you're saving $180 a month. It's not just the 180 that you're saving. If you're smart with that 180, you're already used to spending it. So apply that towards a credit card maybe where you're paying 20% on. Over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, you save yourself a lot of money. Then you turn around and start investing, and you're making 10% on that 180 a month, a year, that sort of thing over the long term. So it's not just the 180 a month.
It's what you do with it, exactly.
It can ultimately turn into be $300, $400, $500 a month at the end of the day. Over a course of 10, 20, 30 years. So. Some people might say, well, it's only $180 a month. Well, that's a lot of money, especially when you are smart with the savings.
Absolutely.
So that's number one.
Yeah, absolutely. The next reason, a lot of people want to pay off their mortgage more quickly. So reducing the term from, let's say, a 30-year to a 15 or 20 or 10. And so you've got your mortgage paid off a lot sooner, and you've saved an incredible amount of interest over the life of the loan.
And typically, like on a 10, 15-year loan, you're going to get a little bit better rate, right? Am I right in saying that? So, so not only do you pay it off quicker, but you're also saving money. You're giving less money to the bank, which I'm okay with.
Yeah, the interest savings is staggering when you take a look at that. And what's new that we're offering is, some people, let's say they're currently in a 15-year and they want to come back and refinance, but they don't want to start the clock over. We can do any kind of amortization term that's needed. So, if they've been in the loan for 2 years, we can do it for 13.
That's great stuff, Tammi. And so moving on to number 3.
All right, so the third reason you might want to look at refinancing, a lot of people that are in adjustable rate mortgages, it's a great opportunity to secure a 30-year fixed or 15-year fixed, lock in that rate, and you have your stable payments that are not going to change. The only thing that would fluctuate, of course, would be property taxes or homeowners insurance. But the principal and interest would remain the same for the life of the loan. So it just gives people that peace of mind that they don't have to worry about the variability.
Okay, that's awesome. Number 4.
All right. So number 4, another great reason is to eliminate private mortgage insurance, perhaps. So PMI, private mortgage insurance, it protects the lender in case you as the borrower default and stop making your payments. And it's required anytime you have less than a 20% down payment. And so people that have been in their home a couple of years, they may have built up a lot of equity, maybe paid down their mortgage faster than required. And so if they've built up that equity, it might be time to take a look and see if there's an opportunity to eliminate the private mortgage insurance from their payment.
Factoring in the equity that's already sitting there. So it's not like you have to turn around and put 20% down because you've already got 20% equity.
Exactly. So not only can they take on a lower interest rate, but then they're also eliminating the mortgage insurance from their payment. So it's a double win.
Seems like a no-brainer there. And again, that PMI is typically over $100 a month, right? If I'm not
typically.
mistaken, yeah. Okay, so last but not least,
Yep.
number
So,
5.
yep. Number 5, debt consolidation. So, like you were talking about, credit card interest rates, probably in the high 20s, perhaps. So, if somebody's built up a lot of credit card debt, it's a prime opportunity. I'm doing a lot of these right now, and the savings is staggering.
Right.
Because if you take a look at your monthly payment on those credit card bills, right now you're eliminating that,
Right.
getting a lower interest rate, rolling it into your loan at a really low interest rate. I'm saving people $400 or $500 a month
That's awesome.
in refinancing right now.
And then don't run those things up again.
Exactly.
Don't do it.
Yep. Also, for part of that would be, maybe paying off student loans or even doing a cash out to take money out to fund college education. So, all different things to look at.
Well, those are absolutely awesome reasons for sure. And just something I'm going to throw in there. This is not 2004, so you can't just go in there with a 528 beacon score and say you make $1 million a year and get a house, So a lot of people that are concerned about their credit, maybe credit scores 620 plus, is that kind of the range for a lot of the people out there to kind of really take a serious look at that?
Typically, but it is going to vary depending on the loan program. So, 580 is something that is possible to work with FHA financing, 620 with conventional.
So let me ask you this. Let's say someone had some concerns about that. Maybe they're carrying some debt or this and that. Have you ever had someone come to you and say, hey, let's see where we're at? And then you can, let's say you run it, and maybe they're not in a great position to get much of a good rate, but you can kind of coach them up a little bit to say, hey, let's get this one credit card paid down under 20%, and it'll boost your score up tremendously, that sort of thing. Is that something you've typically worked with people on?
Very regularly. I love it.
A little
I really enjoy helping people do that because it can help them not only qualify where they previously couldn't, but also I do it to help them get the very best terms that they can.
Right.
And so we have a simulator that we use, and it's just very helpful. I can give you like the 101 on credit repair real quick if you'd like. So some of the things that people can do to help improve their credit scores. So one is avoid inquiries to their credit. Next is to make sure they're not charging up a lot of debt on their credit cards. And on the revolving credit cards that they do have, ideally, if they can keep their balances less than 10% of the credit limit, that's going to help to get them the very best credit scores possible. And if they want to pay those credit cards off every month, that's fine. Just continue to use them, keep them active and open, and charge on them again, keeping the balance less than 10%. And if they do pay something off, they just need to make sure not to close it, because closing the account down will actually have a negative impact on their credit because they're eliminating that great credit history that they've built up over the years. So paying everything on time, actively using their credit, balance is less than 10%, minimizing inquiries, paying everything on time, and that will help.
Well, so moral of the story is, don't be afraid about the credit and all that kind of stuff. Just reach out to a professional, and you can give them some good feedback, some good advice, and maybe get them on the path towards getting better rates and get those scores up over 700. So just kind of a random thought I thought about there that, a lot of people might, it's good for some people, to know that stuff. But, Tammi can get you on the path, to getting the best scores possible and helping you accomplish your financial goals when it comes to your real estate. So, well, awesome, Tammi, and thank you for joining us today. I know this was early. I'm on my 4th cup of coffee to warm up my brain. Hopefully we didn't bore you.
Not at all. Had a great time.
Hopefully I didn't. I know Tammi didn't. So thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully this added value to everybody out there, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.